Hello, I've been making a game called Stack on and off for the last 2 years. In Stack you play as a tower of blobs with an addiction to coins, and it's really in your best interest to avoid the hazards, but how else will you collect all the treasure? Recently, I've been working on version 1.9 of Stack that I've dubbed the Story Update, which will make more sense in a moment. But here are the recent changes I've made sorted into categories. There's graphics, gameplay, and miscellaneous. Let's start with the obvious. The game is no longer blurred when being uploaded to YouTube, which is nice. YouTube scales down to the closest standard resolution, which in my case was 480p. But I can now record in 1080p, although some of the text is now pixelated. I then updated the coin and enemy sprites to make them nicer, but I also wanted to better convey that the enemies were dangerous to touch, which the spikes now do. This was made by rendering a 3D model at 32 angles around the object, and then cycling through the frames for movements, and rotating the image to create direction. The coin was also made in a similar process. Enemies also collide and bounce to give the illusion of depth. These changes have vastly improved the look of the game. The GUI icons in the store was also updated not to be programmer art, and a drop shadow was put underneath to make them stand out. I considered programming in the drop shadow, but I decided it would look no different if it was just baked into the image. The transparent parts of the GUI now distort the game as if they were made out of water, and originally I wanted it to be a blur, but I couldn't figure out how to make a blur shader without checking hundreds of pixels per pixel, so instead the game distorts the image using sine waves. Next on to gameplay. The biggest changes I've made is I'm introducing levels. This is first unlocked after getting 40 coins in the normal game, and it opens up an island with vastly different levels. The first level I'm keeping as is, but simplifying it to be slightly less chaotic. The second level, Upper Plains, the enemies spawn in snake patterns sliding around. The enemies can still collide in this level, but they don't bounce off each other, otherwise the level would be a complete mess. Coins also form trails and slide away from the player, causing the player to chase after them in a pursuit. The third level, the Dark Woods, has darkness and visibility. There's a cone of light around the player which slowly grows until they collect a coin, making it shrink again. This means it becomes easier for slower players to navigate as the light has more time to grow. I also want to eventually add an enemy or an object that either likes darkness or likes the light, but I currently can't think of what. I want these levels to have story and dialogue between them, leading up to a final boss where the player confronts the being responsible for throwing all the spike balls down. For the miscellaneous, to make the game more interactive, the title, coins, enemies, player, and crystals interact with the cursor. Most of them bounce when the mouse is above them, but the player blobs also smile, and this helps the game to feel less static. Eventually, I want to make all the GUI assets to react in a similar way. And at the start of the game, there is an introduction animation which plays, which should better introduce to the player what they're trying to do to collect coins and to avoid spikes. And I also have a long list of bugs and changes I need to make before I can call 1.9.0 finished. See you in the future, and thank you for watching.